So how have you been throughout the pandemic? It's man, everything's going crazy right now. The world's going nuts. Cities are burning down. Uh, so how have you been?
I mean, I've been fine. I've been kind of training through it. I'll be honest. I've been really careful not to be around people that are like, the most at risk. But I haven't really let it slow me down. I train every day, twice a day. We're around a bunch of guys. So
Yeah, you're right there in the heart of it all too, aren't you? Right in Florida.
yeah,
So I mean, it'd be hard to avoid it and everything there. What's the protocol and everything going on there? Gyms are open now too and everything, right?
yeah. Gyms are open. People are trying to social distance. People are trying to kind of stick with like the same training partners, and we all get tested like every once in a while. So if there's ever a problem or if there's a temperature that's too high, you don't train. So yeah, there's a lot of precautions that are being taken right now.
I want to talk a little bit about your background because you did get into MMA a little bit late. For where a lot of people are getting into it in their 15, 16, and they're starting MMA. But you wrestled. You did a lot of wrestling. So you
Yeah.
started in Alaska, is that correct? In like middle school, and then moved to Florida for high school.
Yeah. I was up there. I wrestled in Alaska. It was kind of more like backyard with cousins, barbecue survival wrestling. But yeah, I moved to Florida and kind of got on a team there and really went crazy with it. I wrestled 5 years Division One. Um, yeah, that was kind of my whole life, and I just couldn't stay away from this stuff. Like it's kind of an addiction. It's like I'll probably do it until my body just can't do it anymore, and then I'll find some other way to be involved.
You have some accolades behind your name: All American, state and conference championships. Of all those accolades, which is the one that you're proudest of, athletic wise? I'm sure there's some that you've had, while working in law
Yeah.
enforcement. But athletically, which accolade are you proudest of?
Definitely the All American. That was a lot of guys were coming off of an Olympic redshirt year, so there was 12 returning All Americans in my weight class. So I mean, like it was the most stacked weight class of all time, and I got beat by the who would become the champion, like in like the second round. So I had to fight my way back through the contees and just beat a ton of really tough guys. And to become an All-American, I had to beat a guy that I kind of like worshipped. Watched this guy wrestle. He was number 4 in the country, and I ended up pinning him. So probably that one. Plus, just combined with like the Citadel, the military academy,
Yeah.
and like how difficult that life was combined with wrestling. Yeah, so altogether, definitely that one athletically.
So what was the work school balance there at Citadel? I mean, high end school, a lot of work, I'm sure. So what was it like balancing all of that stuff?
Brutal. So intentionally, they give you way more than you can possibly do in a day. You know what I mean? So you got to learn to prioritize like what's important to you, and I mean it's impossible. It's like impossible to succeed your first year. It's your knob year. It's like, the whole thing is just hell. Balancing athletics, academics, military duties, keeping your uniform straight. I mean, you just have a billion things you're trying to do and not enough time to do it. So, man, it makes you tough. I'll tell you that right now.
The one thing I find with a lot of wrestlers, guys like Daniel Cormier, I spoke to Drakkar Close on this. Henry Cejudo as well, is they find wrestling really morph them and help them grow into men or whoever. They said that it really helped them. How did wrestling help you not only athletically but also on the mental side of things?
Yeah. So wrestling's one of those sports where very few people walk into wrestling and just dominate people. I mean, it just doesn't happen. Wherever you start wrestling, you're just getting your butt kicked, oftentimes for 2, 3 years, 4 years, where you're just getting smashed. And wrestling kind of instills in you that it kind of validates that feeling of hard work does pay off. And if I don't quit, eventually I will kind of make my way up the totem pole. And that's just like the story of wrestling. You start in middle school, you work your way up, you think you're a pretty bad dude by the time you're in the 8th grade. Then you get to the high school and you're at the bottom of the pole again, and then college and you're at the bottom again, and then MMA and you're at the bottom again. And it's just it just teaches you how to grow. And I think that's like a learned skill that you have to learn. If your parents didn't teach you, wrestling will teach you.
What advice would you give to parents? Because I know if I went to my mom when I was, in high school or junior high even, and just said, "Hey, look, I want to wrestle," I know I'd get like the backhand of the side of the head, like smarten up, play soccer, do something else. What advice would you give to parents who are a little bit like hesitant to throw their kids into martial arts?
Man, that's a tough one. I hesitate to tell people how to parent, but like for me, for example, knowing what it did to my character and my development as a man, I'm going to want my son to do it. Am I going to force him to do it? Probably not. I mean, I don't want to be one of those dads, on the side of the mat freaking out. But whether it's wrestling or anything that's extremely difficult, I think adversity kind of creates diamonds. You know what I mean? If you meet people that don't have to overcome adversity, by the time they're an adult, when they actually do hit adversity, they don't know how to handle it. People are mean to me, I'm working hard, but I'm not getting anywhere, not used to defeat, someone else being better than you. You have to learn how to cope with all those things. It's just part of life, in my opinion. So if you want your kid to learn those skills, I mean, wrestling is the perfect way to do it, and it's safe. It's not like you're getting struck. You're not getting punched or kneed or kicked in the head or anything like that. I mean, it's way safer than football, in my opinion. So I don't know. I'd say if you're a parent, go for it. Just let them do it. If they're tough enough to stick in it, you got one heck of a tough kid.
You spent some time in law enforcement after you were done with college. What sorts of things did you apply to your time in working that you developed as a wrestler?
Oh, like stuff from wrestling that I brought into law enforcement?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of those same tools. I think wrestling and martial arts in general kind of eliminates pride, I think. A wrestler, a guy that's been doing martial arts a lot, you're not, I don't know, you almost know how to stay cool in a bad situation, and you know how to kind of de-escalate things because you know what a fight's like. And knowing what a fight is really helpful going into law enforcement as like a rookie, because I almost feel like you come into it with a little bit more of a humble stance. You know what I mean? You're not there to crack skulls and take names. It's like you kind of have a better understanding of how the world works a little bit because you've been beat up.
Yeah, I remember my first time on the mat did not go so well. I was like, I can handle my own. I watch UFC every weekend, and didn't end well.
That's awesome.
I usually don't like to get involved when it comes to like political discussions on here because everyone's got their 2 cents, and I say one thing, and the next thing you know, no one wants to jump on the podcast. But
I get it.
The one question I did have, I mean, it's obviously something that's been talked about. What do you think about having police having some sort of martial arts background, whether it be jiu-jitsu or wrestling, almost have it being mandatory, Because I find a lot of people are trigger happy because there's a gun there, whereas if you could de-escalate things using your martial arts, I think there'd be a whole lot, a lot less deaths. As someone who's been behind the gun, what's your thoughts on that?
I don't see this question as it's not super political. It's kind of just like, it's kind of an as matter of fact truth, when you're grappling, when you're a wrestler, a jiu-jitsu guy, sambo guy, what it feels like to start to lose control of somebody else. Like me and you were in a grappling, engagement, and I start to lose control of that. I know what that feels like, and I can react, I can adjust. Police officers that have never rolled jiu-jitsu, never wrestled or done anything like that, I think that, and what I've seen personally, is kind of like a sense of panic that sets in. It's like the second that you can't, muscle this guy to the ground, or the second that they start to escape a little bit, it's almost, you can see the fear in their eyes. Like, it's like, oh crap, I'm about to get killed. And it's like, that's not always reality. It's a confidence thing. To answer your question, I love that idea. I think that law enforcement should definitely be required to do some sort of wrestling or jiu-jitsu, probably jiu-jitsu. How you're going to implement it, though, I had somebody ask me this before, and it's like, that's the problem. How do you train? Who pays for it? Is that taxpayer money? A lot of police officers are going to get injured in training. That's a lot of cops off the street. I don't know. Implementing it's the hard part. Do I believe that it should happen? Absolutely. I can just personal experience. there's been plenty of times I didn't have to hurt somebody a lot because I was able to just out grapple them and control the situation really quickly with the skills that I learned in martial arts. So, yeah, I agree with it.
Then transitioning into MMA, I mean, you took some time off to work and whatnot after university. What ultimately led you back into athletics, into competing?
Well, so I got involved in a shooting when I was a police officer. It was the Charleston 9 shooting. Dylan Roof went into a church and killed a lot of people, 9 people. And I was one of the first officers on scene for that. Experienced some traumatic stuff inside of that building. I won't really go into depth about it, but ultimately I developed a panic attack disorder. Still struggle with it, still have massive anxiety. It's something that it's like kind of my daily struggle that I have to kind of work through. I tried to get back into law enforcement after that event happened. It really wasn't working. By the time I got to like the active shooter stuff, I was having panic attacks again, in academy. So, I realized that law enforcement wasn't going to be in the cards for me anymore. It wasn't going to be safe for me or, the guys next to me. So, it's one of those kind of come to God moments, I'm, praying, asking myself, what skills do I have? How can I continue in life? How can I, do good with what I, with the gifts that I have? And I came to the conclusion, kind of through an epiphany that MMA was that answer. I could, through MMA, I would gain a platform to kind of continue to help the world and lead by example.
I love it. I've read about it. I've seen it before. I've heard you talk about it. So I don't want to go into a whole lot of detail. It is out there to anybody who wants to look more into it. Obviously, the Dylan Roof thing was super sad. We've all heard about it. And first things first, man, thank you for doing what you did. And I'm glad you found a kind of a way to deal with it through MMA. And then onto MMA, onto a less sad note there. You had a relatively busy 2019, so you picked up 2 pro wins, couple amateur wins. How did this pandemic slow you down? I mean, I feel like you had some momentum going there. What was the plan coming into 2020, and how does this slow you down?
Well, my plan was to, get with ATT. This is my first year with American Top Team, Coconut Creek. I moved down here. I have the best training partners in the world, man. I'm telling you, like, everybody in this room is just an absolute killer. And that felt really good. I felt everything coming together. I felt like a complete fighter, and I was looking forward to getting into some fights. But, once COVID-19 hit, it was like fighters were backing out, promotions were backing out, more and more restrictions from the state were coming in. And, it just kind of halted everything. I kind of had a choice to make. I was like, I could quarantine in my house, and, get fat over the next who knows how long, or, just kind of take my life into my own hands and just power through it. And I'm glad I made the choice that I did. It's not over yet. I could still get sick. I could still get hurt, but I don't know, man. Life is meant to be lived, and I'm kind of putting my trust in God, and I'm just going to keep moving forward. And fights are coming back now. I've got 2 signed, two guys that have their name on the contract. So, it's all in God's time, and I think it's.
Yeah. So what was it like transitioning into MMA? Obviously, learning the stand-up, learning jiu-jitsu, and what was it like jumping back on the mat for the first time in a period of time?
Yeah, jumping back on the mat was pretty easy because I was starting to have to learn jiu-jitsu combined with my wrestling, and I fell in love with jiu-jitsu. So that wasn't that hard. It was just a matter of knocking off some rust. The striking, the way that I did it was I kind of did it by like trial by fire. I just got in there and just, started discovering what worked, what didn't. I had some really good initial coaches like Alan Belcher out in AB MMA, Mike Sanford, Chase Sherman, Brandon Davis. I had a bunch of killers out there helping me, get started. And then by the time I got to Coconut Creek, Florida, I had enough of a base to where I could start sparring with these, these big name guys. And then, it's just once you get to Coconut Creek, Florida, once you get to ATT, as long as you're mentally tough enough to keep showing up every day, you're going to excel. You're going to get better. I mean, these guys have massive amounts of wisdom, and they just correct you a little bit here by here. So, if you got the heart, you almost can't be bad at American Top Team, you know. So
Yeah.
it's kind of brought my striking by miles and miles and miles. I look forward to showcasing it for sure.
The one question I do have though is when you surround yourselves with monsters, like I know when I went to jiu-jitsu for the first couple times I rolled was with other newbies, I guess. And I was like, man, I'm great at this. And then I was thrown in against someone who had been doing it for a while, and I was like, man, I have a lot to learn. So how does like training with a guy like Greg Hardy and these high level guys, like it almost seems like it would knock your confidence a little bit?
Of course. You know, back when we were talking about wrestling, how like you start at the bottom of the totem pole and you work your way up. It's the same thing, you know. It's just a new challenge. When I first went in there, of course, I was intimidated, and these guys are monsters, and they do beat you up, and but I mean, they've also built you up. Like you mentioned, Greg Hardy, he's one of the nicest guys I've ever met in my entire life. One of the first guys to talk to me when I got there, and kind of instantly took me under his wing, and you know, I've just been developing under these guys, and now I'm kind of a peer with these guys, you know, and helping them improve their like wrestling and jiu-jitsu game. So it's cool, man. It's like, yeah, you start out as the punching bag, but I mean, then you kind of get honed, and you know, and then you become competitive, and that's a really good feeling. That's where the reward is, you know. But it takes time, and you got to take your licks.
Yeah. So you're also going to have King Mo in your corner. Is that correct?
Yeah.
What's it like having a guy like that? I mean, he's fought in so many weight classes, so many organizations. He's so experienced. I'd have to imagine that having someone like that really, really helps a long way.
Yeah. So, yeah, like you said, he's got tons of wisdom. He's a really cool guy. One of the coolest guys I've ever met in my life. He really cares about MMA. He knows, he recognizes how bad I want it. I mean, we've kind of connected on a personal level. Yeah, he's going to be cornering me. He's one of those guys that I think he'll probably be with me with the rest of my career. You know, for as long as I'm fighting, I'm sure King Mo will be there. And yeah, I mean, just even on interviews, promo videos, just what to say, how to present myself. I mean, he has just been invaluable to me. So yeah, no, I'm really thankful to have him around for sure.
Do you think the empty arena, having him there in an empty arena without having to hear the crowds, do you think that's going to benefit you at all?
Yeah, I think so. The thing is, most of the preparation happens before the fight. You know what I mean? You have to win the fight before you even step in there, if that makes sense. If you show up to a fight and then look to win, you're probably going to lose. You know, you have to prepare. So I almost know everything that he's going to tell me, you know, and in between rounds, you know, he'll help me correct my game. That's really where the biggest help will be, you know, in between rounds. But I don't think it'll make much of a difference. You know, I'm confident. We're confident in our game plan. I'm going to go out there and execute it. You know, so.
This next fight you have coming up, it's against a guy named Prince. If I'm not mistaken, mm-hmm. He's the most experienced fighter you've ever fought. How does your game plan differ, knowing that he's seen it all? You can't just come in and bull rush him as you could someone else who's never seen it before.
Right.
How's your game plan change?
It doesn't. And you know, the thing is, I learned this from years of wrestling. It doesn't matter if he knows everything about me. I'm still going to execute my game plan. I mean, if you look at the best in the world, they don't care if the other guy knows what they're doing. They go in there and they do it anyway. You know, everyone knows what Khabib's going to do. You know what I mean? In any given fight, you know, you can make that bet all day long. He knows what I'm going to do. The problem is he's just not going to be able to stop it. You can't make up for 20 plus years of what I've been doing, what I've been training, and he's got more experience in the MMA game, but I've been competing a long time. I'm not intimidated. Records don't mean anything to me. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to get it done because I've earned it. I've worked for it.
So you've got 4 finishes and 4 fights. What can we expect in your next time out? Another finish, or is it just getting your hand raised?
No, I don't like to do the points, just getting my hand raised thing. I'm in here to do something. My goal, my whole reason for fighting is kind of to spread the word of God, to show young people that you can be a bad dude, you can be tough, you can overcome horrible things, but you can still be a gentle, kind, honorable, righteous person. And no one's going to pay attention if I'm just squeaking out decision wins. I need to go out there and I need to, knock him out, break his legs, snap his ribs, whatever I need to do so that people watch, and and take note.
All right, man. Thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it. I can't wait to watch this next one. What is the ultimate, last question, and I'll let you go. What is the ultimate goal with MMA? I mean, you've talked about spreading love. You've talked about spreading the word of God. Is that the ultimate goal, or is the goal to reach a platform like the UFC or a Bellator to be able to spread that to a wider audience?
Of course, yeah. I mean, getting to the next, bigger promotions, that's definitely the goal. Because, I mean, more people watch, and some people get confused. They're like, how does your your message of peace, hope, and love kind of match up with MMA and beating people up? Well, it's like the thing is, we're two adults, we're two consenting adults. And it's a sport. It's not a street fight. There's not concrete. There's rules. There's a ref. So I don't know. Like, I guess that is also part of the message. Is like a certain amount of violence isn't always a bad thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's part of our life. It's how you use it that matters. So, but yeah, I definitely want to get to a bigger stage so I can knock out bigger guys, get more people watching, and keep showing people how to do it. Through my example.
All right. I love that, man. Great message to end on as well. Once again, man, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. Looking forward to your next one, and all the best.
Hey, thanks a lot, buddy.
Yep, not a problem.
Appreciate you. Bye.